my BWS Wolverine shirt.
Yeah. Well, we are live over on YouTube, so we're going to officially get the shindig started in 3, 2. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
Who are you?
He's blurry.
He's blurry. He's Pete, everybody. I can tell this is going to be a good show already. I'm excited about it. You're excited about it. Quick question while we're going over logistics. I forgot to test my music. Did the music work? Was it working?
Killer track.
Wow.
Killer track.
Amazing.
I think Pete poured some of his booze juice into his laptop tonight.
He was making a classic cocktail, a vodka and laptop.
Yummy.
Mixing
it up. Good. For those of you listening, Pete is washing his camera like a bikini car wash.
So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Very excited to have you all here. We are live on Crowdcast over on video. We're live on YouTube, a.k.a. The Tube. If you're over there, give us a little thumbs up, like. We always like that. If you're listening to on audio podcast as well, we love you just as well, just as strongly as anybody else. And I'm excited about the show that we have tonight. We have 2 guests for you, 2 of our favorite guys to have here on the show. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to invite them here into the stream now.
Pretext. Well, we haven't got on the same page yet. Pete didn't even introduce himself. Oh, shit. Okay.
It's too late. It's too late. Fred Van Lente is already here, everybody. And here's Ryan Dunlavey. Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys. So Fred and Ryan, we've had you on the show multitudinous times. This time we're having you back for an awesome new comic from IDW called The Comic Book History of Animation. It's very cool. Right before we get into it, though, Ryan, I know you're jumping from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. We're just part of your busy social schedule. If you need to eat. That's important.
I'm fine. I ate earlier, so I'm just going to be spilling coffee on myself.
Coffee hour.
That's good. Talk to Pete. He knows about spilling stuff all over his laptop, so he's good. Guys, that was so stressful.
That gave me a lot of
anxiety-inducing.
Yeah. So let's talk about this book. You guys, obviously, for those who don't know, have done tons of different comic book histories. You delved in philosophers, presidents, other aspects of history. But this one is a very focused, very different one, focusing on animation. Where did the idea start with? Like, what was the first germ of, hey, this might be an interesting specific thing for us to tackle?
I basically bullied Fred into doing it.
Like all comic books, a little bit of bullying.
I'm like, all right, enough of U.S. history, enough of philosophy. We did your stuff. Let's do my stuff. I want to do animation. So,
that's true. Yeah. This is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is like our 8th book together. So I figured, what the heck? Give him a bone.
Yeah,
let the baby have his bottle.
Well, so Ryan, I mean, I know you're half joking here, but like, what is it? Other than the fact that obviously you're an artist, what is it about this history in particular that you find so interesting?
I don't know. It's just something that I've always brought to. I've actually gravitated more towards animation than comic books. I've always been a cartoonist, although I only dabbled in it as professionally. It's like the career that escaped me was animation. I have just had a deep love of it long before I had a love of comic books, and it's persisted like as comic books have come and gone. So. As an interest in my life. So yeah, I knew a lot about it, and I knew it would be, I've drawn so many cartoon characters like as an illustrator and just for fun. And I knew it would be an easy book for me to do and a really fun book for me to do. So I basically pushed Fred into it, but Fred's also, was a film student originally and knew a lot about that. And so that was, I said, let's concentrate on this one little part. Maybe it'll be a really cool book. And I think it has. I think it's turned out to be a pretty good project.
Fred, where are your lost arty student films that we can get a look at?
Yeah, I have them on VHS.
Oh, let's do it. Roll them.
Do the machines that can transfer VHS to the digital sphere still work, or did they all fall apart years ago?
Only on Riverdale. That's the only place they work.
Is that right?
Yes.
Alex has Riverdale brain, so he can't talk about much else.
But I've got I want to say about an hour's worth of movies that are all range between the mildly amusing to super pretentious.
Yes, I want to see the most.
I just remember the funny
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funny ones turned out all right. The pretentious ones were okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, so Fred, then, and maybe this is a question for both of you, but then when you're approaching something that is broad as the history of animation, obviously you start at the beginning of it. That's where the book starts. But the thing that I think is so great about this book is you are telling an engaging story. It's a narrative at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's not just this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So how do you crack that? How do you come up with a span of not just the individual issues, but the book as a whole when you're tackling an entire history like this?
This is an auspicious, coincidental interview because we actually finished the book yesterday, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, we
got
finished
the last colored page yesterday. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, wow. Adam, our colorist, finished the book yesterday. So,
and that's why animation is dead. The end.
And no one watched it again. Well, it's sort of interesting, like where you sort of deal with where you start something like this is often a challenge. Like a lot of people start the history of film with zoetropes, right? Like the flip books, like you take an image and you flip it or you put it in the spinner, that colander, right? If you've ever been to the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens and you sort of stare through the slits and it goes through, I guess most science museums have it.
Or on the subway.
That's right.
That's right.
That's still where I watch most of my movies. I get the zoetrope cut and just watch it.
Wow. Can I get my student film transferred to zoetrope?
Yes, I can zoetrope that shit. I'm an originalist. I believe in the pure form, so you can take your filthy digital and get it out of here.
But we ended up booking the. There are also interesting things like the farm. So there's this guy Edward Murbridge who was famous for doing these photographic studies of horses, like when photography was invented the day before, and then he started taking quick motion pictures of people jumping, like high jumping and how horses
in motion. That's when they first discovered finally put it to rest, horses' hooves do leave the ground when they run. They didn't believe it till he'd actually gotten it on film.
They thought they floated.
Yeah, there was a debate. It's it was is the dress white or is it black? It's at the time it was does a horse's hooves actually leave the ground as it runs? But once he took pictures of it, that put the debate to rest. Yes, they do.
And the ranch where Murbridge shot all that footage is Caltech, or it's got another bizarre connection to computer animation, and now I'm blanking on what it was, but so that then became Pixar's campus is on Murbridge's. Now I'm just spreading.
Investigator might be.
But we ended up starting with Thomas Edison. Well, what's cool about the book is that it bookends.
Actually, that's not true. You started with
I started with you.
Well, you started with me, but we
wanted
more so using drawings.
You're still here after seeing Ryan.
Humiliate me. Sorry. I'm being pedantic about our own comic, bro. You're wrong. See?
Please.
Well, yes, right. Technically, the first images are with chalk drawing, but we do that to then begin a discussion about Thomas Edison, who filmed the first animated movie, which was about chalk drawing, which is this vaudevillian pre-movies act people would do. If you could flip back actually to the previous page. So what Ryan there is demonstrating is chalk drawing, which is where you would start off drawing one thing and then suddenly you add a few lines and it would become something completely different. Like it goes from a marine scene to a cabin scene, then turns into a guy bicycling. And so, they were starved for entertainment in the 19th century, people, and this was really cool to them,
Well, I mean, they were just busy watching horses float, and that was pretty much it.
That's right. They were
down at the bar getting into fist fights. So I say the hooves do come off the ground. No.
That's right. And so the book ends up being sort of bookended by these two giant tech gurus, Thomas Edison and Steve Jobs, who later goes on to run Pixar. And bought it from Lucas Arts, Lucasfilm.
Fred, you're giving away the ending of the book.
Oh no!
Giving away all the history.
Doesn't come out for 3 months.
It's a sled. And just watched that movie the other day. It still holds up.
Wow.
But
Mank, right?
No, I didn't like Mank. Actually. Mank is what made me watch Citizen Kane, just as I washed the taste of Mank out of my mouth. Wow, that's an interesting turn of phrase, isn't it?
Taste of mank. I'm gonna get my taste of mank.
Tell you what, that's what I'm putting in. I'm putting that in my mank bank.
Oh,
Alex,
come on,
Alex,
I've been sitting on that for months. There's been no appropriate situation to say that, and this also was not.
Exactly. I think you found a truly no home for that joke.
I mean, you're kind of touching on this anyway, but one of the things that I think is also very interesting about the book, and obviously this is a little bit of history, but I think there's some editorializing going on here as well, is you have heroes and you have villains. Like in the first issue, it certainly comes through that Winsor McKay is doomed hero is probably the wrong thing, but he's certainly very huffy throughout it at certain points. Versus towards the end, you have this spoiler for history, but you have this cliffhanger about Walt Disney where it's like dun dun dun. It's very villain coming in, which plays out a lot through the second issue. So how do you approach that when you have these historical figures, giving it that sense of, okay, this is kind of a good guy, this is kind of a bad guy?
It's more just sort of, it falls into sort of certain, when you're writing fiction, they always say that the important thing is the characters try and fail, right? A drama, David Mamet says that a drama is really nothing more than a series of attempts of a character to try and do something and then fail it. And then when he succeeds or she succeeds, story's over. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily agree with that 100%, but there's a lot of sort of interesting parallels to that when you're writing history. And I think what you're trying to do is to sort of not necessarily create heroes and villains, but I think we gravitate towards people and see them as heroic when they're trying to overcome these great obstacles, right? Winsor McKay sat down and more or less hand drew, this is before cell animation was invented, before it occurred to somebody, hey, I don't need to redraw the background every time. He redrew the background in Gertie the Dinosaur like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 times, I remember it was.
Wow.
And Walt Disney was basically trying to do original animation very early on in the mid-teens, and he got completely ripped off by his business partners. Disney made it much easier for his business partners to rip him off by being a complete dick to everybody who worked for him. So I don't know if I would necessarily call Disney the hero of the story, but he definitely was very driven. I mean, Disney was really good at being a boss. He wasn't really that great at anything else. He was not a great cartoonist. Believe it or not, he was not a particularly good salesman. And he really did a really good job of pissing other people off. Like, he was just difficult to deal with. But because he had this sort of exuded this kind of paternal father figureness, a lot of people gravitate towards that. And he had this kind of cadre of worshipful employees around him. And ultimately, the people who didn't worship him tried to form a union. That didn't go too well for the studio.
That darling old man hated unions and a lot of other.
He hated commies.
So many things.
Yeah. I mean, from the artistic perspective, and I just wanted to ask Ryan over here, and people got to see that who are watching on video on the pages a little bit. But as usual, you do take a cartoony approach with the stuff to the point that Walt Disney has the Mickey Mouse ears, or I think Thomas Edison, if I remember correctly from 2 minutes ago, was a squid and other things. So why approach it that way? Why was that important?
Well, it keeps it a lot more visually interesting because, some of these histories they tend to, all the main figures tend to start to look alike. And that was one way to keep them distinctive. This was also all Fred's idea. He came up with the brainstorm for that, was like saying, hey, let's draw them. We'd actually done it before. We had done in the comic book history of comics, we had drawn Walt Disney as Mickey Mouse with this terrifying Walt Disney face.
Yeah. I can't remember for the life of me why we did that. Because we only did it in that story.
Yeah, it was a little strange, but I don't know. We must have been really tired. So, but it seemed to work, and so we just carried it through this, and that was a lot of fun doing that. Just being able to draw, just to preview ahead of time. Like Chuck Jones shows up in issue 3, and he's Wile E. Coyote. Miyazaki is Totoro. So there was somehow, especially that last instance with Totoro, I was really able to it was a lot easier to give them the expressions that I thought needed to carry the story and to carry the narrative than I think I would have if I was just drawing regular looking people. So,
I I mean, it's so. I think all history books it'd be much easier to understand history if that's the way all history books were made.
Sure, you'll pay attention when it's like,
yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Is that I really enjoy how much I learned from this and how interactive it feels, and how like not only creative, like with the way you're kind of telling the story, but how much you kind of walk away from it, which is great. I mean, I've given these comics to my brother kids who's really enjoyed them, and I look like a hero for it. But the part where you showed us like the house that like turned around because to follow the sun. Yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, that is so interesting.
If you go to West Orange, New Jersey, you can see it.
Thanks.
It's not that far away.
Not
in laboratory. Sadly it's a recreation, and you cannot go in it because it is. And the park rangers told me this because it's a security risk. Like they're just worried it's going to fall down any second now. And I'm like, oh man, I'm cool. I'll stay out here. I don't even want that.
Since you guys are now, for you, I mean, as readers, we're not, but for you, you're at the end of this project. Do you get to a point with these sort of things where you're like, I hate this now? Like, if you saw an animated movie, do you feel like
every day of Ryan's life?
Well,
I only hate it when I start it, but
yeah.
Then I get after 5 or 6 pages, I guess like, well, I guess this is my life now, and I just like plow through it.
I guess I meant more specifically not about your book, but about like animation. Like, do you watch Soul and you're like, oh, I know too much about how the sausage is made now?
Yeah, no, not animation. I mean, maybe if I worked in it, I would probably start to hate it. But
there's definitely stuff that I rewatched and I was like, huh, Akira kind of sucks.
Oh, right.
Wow. Hot take.
Ow.
Yeah, that is a sizzler.
Hot take, Akira. If you're a 13-year-old boy,
I still have not watched all the way through a He-Man episode. It's
oh god.
I mean, don't go back into that pit. It'll ruin.
How many issues is that on He-Man and Thundercats? 2, 3, something like that.
He-Man gets more play than He-Man is arguably the most successful cartoon on TV of all time. I guess if you don't have The Simpsons, then maybe not. Then the most successful kids cartoon at the highest ratings. He-Man was so popular because they did it 5 days a week, right? So it was able to build this huge.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
They beat the local early 5 o'clock network TV newscasts, which I know. The news, who cares? But hey, when you're only competing with only 4 channels, the 3 main networks and whatever syndicated network was showing He-Man.
He-Man was the main way I got my news when I was a kid.
Exactly. Another man at arms.
What are you up to?
What's up with him? I'm a little hesitant to ask this, but just based on the fact that there's several comments about this over on YouTube, and we've had comments about it here over on Crowdcast. There's a lot of questions about the various creators and anti-Semitism in particular. As you were delving into this, do you feel like, and I feel like this is following the same turning against animation thing, but were there any creators that just you turned up so many stones and uncovered so many bugs that you're like, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah,
not with the book again, but like, Walt Disney obviously
you're
has
a very bleak portrait of our process.
Walt Disney obviously has a very like dark past, right?
History.
I mean, look, I'm not here to defend Walt Disney. Walt Disney was a giant asshole, but like most narcissistic rich people, his politics did not really go beyond self-interest, right? I mean, he was accused of being anti-Semite. There's no actual like quote unquote evidence of that. Like, but he did lots of terrible, horrible things. My favorite horrible thing that Walt Disney did was that so Disney, when World War II started, their production turned over almost entirely to the military, and they're making military films. And so that gave them a special designation from the War Department that their employees could be exempted from the draft. Walt Disney personally chose who was exempted from the draft and who had to go fight. And the only people he sent to go fight were union leaders and people who had been involved in the strike. So he literally sent people off to die for opposing him, Song of the South is another sort of great example, like this famously, ridiculously racist movie that he did in the late 40s, where, people even in the studio were like, why are you doing this? Like, what's wrong with
Nobody wants this.
Nobody wanted it to do it. And I mean, keep in mind, this is a movie that in 1946 they said was racist. You know what I mean? With the NAACP, this is not some like modern, like, oh, you woke hipsters are imposing your views. No, they said it was racist. The New York Times said it was racist in 1946. But he did this thing where he took the script and he sent the script out to like the NAACP and various black leaders, and they gave him their notes, which he then promptly completely ignored. And they just made the movie anyway, you know?
Wow. Why did he do that?
And they did the film premiere in Atlanta at the same theater where Gone with the Wind premiered, which was run by Jim Crow. And so the stars couldn't go to the premiere because they were black.
Wild.
Like an asshole, like I said. Walt Disney, definitely an asshole.
Yeah, I do think what I love about this book
Murderous
and all is that you incorporate those stories and those little pieces of history so well into this sort of overarching history. Like the bit in I think the first issue, the woman who was the wife of an animator who drunkenly fell out the window to her death.
Oh my god!
Ryan did a great job with that.
Such a random, like, sort of small sidebar story, but like sticks with me so hard. And those little pieces, you don't get that anywhere else. I feel like your books always bring those just great little pieces like that.
Yeah, I think
please.
So many times, especially when it comes to like these when you learn about entertainment, it's usually sponsored by the company itself. It's like, yo, hey, there's all these documentaries about Disney on the Disney Channel. Of course, they're going to skip out this stuff like, oh, look how racist our founder was. But you know, with us, we don't have to. We're not tied down to stuff like that. So
yeah, that is a good point. I mean, most histories of pop culture, well, this was more the case in comic history comics, are written by fans who kind of want to, like, you know, still want to sort of have this almost childlike sort of belief in the things that they like. Ryan and I don't give a shit about anything.
You need nihilists.
Like, we're not exactly. We're nihilists. You know, we'll tear it all down.
Well, I gotta say, I came away with a much bigger admiration for Filmation than I had coming in. I mean, artistically, not so much, but as a company and as a group of people, they were something else.
I was infuriated when DC Universe, the late great DC Universe, took down the Filmation card. The Filmation Aquaman cartoon is amazing.
It really is.
It's so bananas.
Yeah. I remember we had that on tape, on VHS tape when I was a kid, and whoof, it was, everything about it is crazy.
Oh, it's a crazy.
So good. Yeah.
So at this point, 2 issues are out, right? And the 3rd issue is coming out pretty soon. Is that correct?
Yeah, February 3rd.
February 3rd. Okay, so we've covered some of the Disney era, but not all of the Disney era. What can people look forward to with the 3rd issue?
That one's cartoon cool. It's Ryan's best cover he's ever done.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, we get into war when, I don't know, Mary Blair features in that a lot. UPA cartoons is featured quite a bit. Like Walt Disney's famous, you know, battle against communism while he was also taking money from the government in order to make films. You know,
they basically made Walt Disney leave the country because the strike was going so badly, and they sent him on a goodwill tour of South America. And he brought this artist, Mary Blair, with him, who became sort of this incredibly famous designer who was the art director on Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella. I'm blanking on the other
Sleeping
one.
Beauty, I think, also. Yeah.
Sorry?
I think Sleeping Beauty as well. But then she also designed, like, it's a Small World ride. And
her big claim to me, she designed It's a Small World, which premiered in the World's Fair in 1964 here in New York City. And
but a lot of the mid-century, like, sort of 50s and 60s cartoon design, flat design owes a lot to her. And so we go deep into her background and influence in that issue.
There was a very famous studio of the 50s called UPA that is, I guess, best known for creating Mr. Magoo. And they did this cartoon with Dr. Seuss called Gerald McBoing Boing, which won the Oscar, which is unwatchable. Don't like it. Not a big Dr. Seuss guy. Anyway,
the book's good.
It looks nice.
The book's good.
The book's good.
Wow.
Yeah.
And He-Man, Gerald McBoing Boing, Akira.
How dare you besmirch Akira?
I'm just going to stick my thumb into Akira's eye as much as possible.
I like your hard repping Aquaman, something that no one rides. No one rides for Aquaman.
I ride for Aquaman.
You ride for the movie Aquaman, which no one rides for.
And so the basically Whack, our pals at Whack, which were very much the House Un-American Activities Committee really went after UAP pretty hard because there were a lot of lefties and union people and straight up members of the American Communist Party involved with the studio, and it basically ran them out of business. However, a lot of those people then went and started to work with Warner Brothers, and so that's where we get the triumph of the third issue is we get some of the greatest animation in America of all time, which is those 50s Looney Tunes like What's Opera Doc and all the Roadrunner Bugs Bunny cartoons, and Ryan's favorite.
What is my favorite? Yes.
And so
Duck 'em Up, of course.
And so Duck 'em Up, for those of you guys who, spoiler alert, for a 7-minute movie that was released 60 years ago, is about Donald Duck trying to do this cartoon, the animator keeps screwing with him. Daffy Duck, pardon me. Daffy Duck keeps getting screwed with, and then the big reveal at the end is that the animator is Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Now,
so good.
That blew my mind as a kid.
Yeah, no, it's in the 90s they did this poll, the greatest animation of all time, and the first place was What's Opera Doc, and second was Duck 'em Up. Yeah.
Really?
And
Duck 'em Up first.
The other cool thing about Duck 'em Up is that Duck 'em Up is a chalk talking routine. Like if you can't really wrap your brain on what the chalk talking routines were in the 19th century, that was basically what Duck 'em Up was keep changing the lines and everybody. I don't know that they did that on purpose, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it was just.
This is getting into spoilers for later issues, but where does Boss Baby fit into all of this?
we do have an evil baby.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. All right.
We do. From Tin Toy.
It's not the boss? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alex's notepad for this show is just Boss Baby circled like 100 times.
Find out. Get to bottom of this.
Is it now? That's Alec. Is that Alec Baldwin's greatest role? Is it better than 30 Rock?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if it's better than 30 Rock.
Better than Prelude to a Kiss.
Number 1, Boss Baby. Number 2, Duck 'em Up. Number 3, 30 Rock. I think. You guys have a bunch of other projects going on. Fred, I know you have King Kirby is coming out as an audio drama. Is it next week? This week? What's going on?
It is in 2 weeks. It's February 10th, King Kirby, which is a drama about the life of Jack King Kirby, written by my wife, Crystal Skillman, and myself, with the original cast, the original New York cast. It's now as an audio drama with new music by Bobby Cronin. It's super awesome. It's going to be dropping the Broadway Podcast Network and iTunes and Spotify and all good stuff.
That's so cool.
Awesome.
We did a reading of it, I believe, on our show.
Yeah, we did.
You and Crystal on.
That's right. That's right. That was awesome.
And Brian, what about you? Anything else you want to plug other than comic book history of animation?
I wish I had something to plug. I really don't. So, guys,
you're doing all these Zoom meetings. You're doing all these Zoom meetings.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get my kid into high school. So if you can help me with that. That's what that's for.
Ryan's son is 6 years old. You have to start early.
You have to start now.
Ryan's son is a boss baby, and he's trying to get him.
Amazing. Fred, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. Great seeing you as always. The book is awesome.
Yeah.
Can't
Thanks,
wait to
guys.
read issue 3. All right. Have a good night.
Always a pleasure, guys. Later.
All right, there we go. Fred Lente and Ryan Dunlavey. The book is Comic Book History of Animation. Always good to see them. It's from IDW. As mentioned, first 2 issues already out. Third issue coming up at the beginning of February. Also, even if you're like, I hope we got this across with the interview, and we've certainly talked about this on the stack, but even if you're like, ugh, history, these books are so much fun to read.
So fun. They're so funny, and the fact that it's all like real stories about animation, something I'm super interested in, love, is so great. The small little pieces, you can't hear that information anywhere else, and it's just good.
Also, the King Kirby play that his wife they wrote together is really just amazing. Really worth. You want to talk about learning something, and it's just really very moving and very, very cool. So definitely worth checking out as well.
Absolutely. You know what also is worth checking out is our next section, which is my favorite section because you guys make it up. It's your audience question.
Yeah.
And for that, we're going to go to you all watching out there. If you're over on YouTube, I'm keeping one eye on the comments over there. So drop a question about absolutely anything, and we are happy to answer it. Over here on Crowdcast, you can drop it and ask a question. See, a bunch of you have already done that. And if you're listening to the podcast, it's too late.
No, you could whisper the question aloud in the room you're sitting in. We'll answer
I think so. We'll hear. It'll be carried upon the wind.
Yes.
No, if you're listening to the podcast, you can always send us an email at comicbookclublive@gmail.com, and we're happy to read it here on the show. But let's kick it off. Oh, yes, Pete, you have an alternate.
Or just hit up Alex on Twitter and just berate him
that's
with your
not gonna
question
happen.
over and over again. It's a great idea, and it works.
It works.
I have things to say about this, but I'm not going to record them publicly. Let's talk about what we're drinking. Pete,
Yes.
I don't want to insult anybody. I don't want anybody to feel bad.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
You don't want to say something like assholes on the internet or something. You know, you don't
I
want
think
to
it means you. I think it means you specifically, Pete.
Pete's constantly tweeting me, being like, "Hey, what's going on? When is the next episode of Riverdale on?" And I'm like, "Pete, check the TV listings."
Also, ask. We talk to each other almost every day. Like you can just ask them.
Yeah, if you know me, I'm on Twitter hard. Like that's all I'm doing is tweeting my ass off. Well, thank you for asking. I am trying out this new flavor of Mountain Dew, where it's a combination of
is that pizza flavored? It looks like pizza flavored.
The color of that bottle is problematic.
Yeah, if you're thinking to yourself, man, I like Mountain Dew, but I also like orange soda. I highly recommend Livewire. I've tried it sober, not as good. It's better when you're drunk.
That's true of all. That's true of all Mountain Dew products, I believe. So you're drinking that and vodka.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm drinking a Negroni. Made myself a Negroni there.
Very nice. Alex.
There you go. I didn't have time to go out and get beer today, so I went to my extensive bar and mixed myself a drink.
Ooh, extensive. Okay, bar flex coming up strong right now.
Yeah.
What's in this extensive bar? Is it layers and layers of just?
It is actually too much liquor at this point. I spent most of quarantine slowly building it up to a better bar, but
he's got like 60. He's got 60 bottles of like nutmeg liqueur and 1 bottle of gin.
I buy a bottle and then I drink it, and then I go buy another bottle. I don't.
How am I supposed to make a nut and tonic without nutmeg liqueur? Come on, man.
Nut and tonic. My drink of choice, bartender. I'll have 1 nut and tonic, please.
And that is a Nutflex.
Nutflex.
You just
you see how we do
it.
It
was a little forced.
I think
it was.
Alex, it was ordained when I first said nutmeg. It was clearly a feint to get to Nutflex. We're always just working in and out of the Nutflexes.
That's a little technique I like to call yes and that I invented.
Justin, what are you drinking?
I've got a little Elvis juice from the Brewdog Brewery, a grapefruit IPA.
I would drink something called Elvis juice.
No, it's good. I feel good. I'm gonna go die in the toilet.
All right. That's a great segue to get into some questions. Let us go over here to YouTube first. Isaac Carter says, which comic book character you feel needs a beard? Great on point question. We all have beards right now. Which comic book character most needs a beard? Who doesn't have one?
Who doesn't have
one?
I feel like it's been something in comics when a hero grows a beard, they're having problems. And I don't know if that's true for the three of us. Pete has had one all the time, so maybe that's a lot of
your own conclusions.
And
hey, you two assholes grow beards too, so fuck.
Only as the world has fallen apart have we grown beards, but you walk around with a beard every goddamn day.
Yeah, that's right. My life was falling apart early. I was ahead of the curve. I don't know, Captain America.
Wow.
Sure. I do feel like, I mean, you're right. That's the problem. Every person that I think of, I'm like, well, they had a beard at one point. Peter Parker can have a beard, but you know he's in a bad place if he has a beard. That's what's going on.
Exactly. So, I mean, what, like, if a Robin grew a beard? Like if
Damian?
If Damian Wayne was like, look, Dad.
Yes, like, I thought about it really hard. That's how amazing I am. And I grew a beard. Even though I haven't got
if you just got like a little mask on, that beard's really going to give you away.
Mm-hmm. Batman could grow a beard that would cover more of his face, or he could wear a fake beard.
Yeah, that's what he would have to do.
Just sew a beard into the cape and cowl.
Yeah, there you go. Great question. Let's go over. Kevin asks on Crowdcast if you could come up with ice cream. Man, people are really challenging us today. If you could come up with ice cream flavors based on comic book characters, what would you come up with?
Wow. Coming up with ice cream flavors is an area of our culture that I think we're running out on.
Well, I'll tell you what I ordered last night was everything bagel ice cream.
Oh,
See?
what?
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
No.
It's a cream cheese ice cream with, I think, like poppy seeds, some garlic, a little sesame seeds in it as well.
I
Should get
love
here
that.
sometime in February. Very excited.
It's not. You haven't tried it yet.
No, I ordered it, and they were like, great, we'll send it to you by February 8th.
You're
And
gonna
I was
make
like,
it.
well, I'm not going to care by then.
Yeah, this is. Hate to tell you, ice cream company, but this is an impulse buy.
I need this right now or not at all.
Yeah. Because I feel like most like mainstream ice cream companies, they're just like, well, this one has cookie dough and brownies and pretzels and also some other things, Hershey Kisses, gummy worms. There's no actual cream in it, and it's not icy at all. It's just a bucket of chocolate.
Love it.
No, wait, though.
Chocolate.
Ice cream flavors based on comic book characters. I mean, there were a bunch of them. Ample Hills did Spider-Man, Captain America, Black Panther, and something else. The Spider-Man one was weird because it was like Aunt May had made Peter Parker an ice cream, but it was cherry pie instead of wheat cakes. Not that I want to eat wheat cakes flavored ice cream or anything like that, but I don't think anybody was like, oh yeah, I associate Aunt May with making cherry pies all the time.
No.
Well, yeah, or wheat cakes. Aunt May, I'm not like Aunt May, famously always doing that. She's famously
Peter Parker was always demanding her wheat cakes. It was like, I can't wait to eat your wheat
cakes. Let's
Who
update that
knows?
reference. Let's
Nobody
update that
knows.
reference. Those are what? Those are pancakes, but old, right?
I assume they were pancakes made with like whole wheat.
Yeah. No, I know what they were going for, but who would call it wheat cakes? That's like
Terrible.
it's a frontier. I'm gonna go
cake?
with wheat cakes. I think let's have a Hulk ice cream. A real
Yeah.
strong pistachio.
No, I think it's it's mint chocolate chip, right? It's all green. Little Hulks in there,
Little Hulks.
How about a Batman ice cream with swirls of vengeance and chocolate pearls?
Oh,
White
Chocolate pearls.
chocolate.
I was
pearls,
all
white
about
chocolate.
the swirls of vengeance, but then the pearls was too far.
Sorry, Pete. All right, we're going to go over here to YouTube. Nelson Martinez asks, what is currently your guys' favorite show that is coming out weekly at the moment? I got to go with Search Party. I binged the whole series, but I love anticipating each new episode now.
I've been loving Search Party. I know Alex is about to nutmeg flex on that he's already seen it all, but I think the way they're releasing it in chunks, and the different chunks have sort of very different feels to them, I think is great.
That's the show. I was trying to figure out what the show was that I was trying that I've been meaning to check out in Search Party. Is that on Prime?
HBO Max right now.
Man, Max has everything.
Alex really had to eat his shame to open up the HBO Max app.
For anybody who hasn't checked it out, we talked about it a bunch on our Week in Geek podcast, but Search Party is a lot of fun, really dark comedy. But the fourth season is out now. They're putting out the final episodes of the fourth season on Thursday.
Yes.
This is my Netflix. They're really interesting. I'm curious to see what everybody thinks afterwards.
It's a wild show because the premise in the first season is they move so far past it that it gets to become this whole new animal that is wild. I'm watching What We Do in the Shadows right now.
Oh yeah,
really loving that. I left it for too long, and then the next show I'm going to watch, which I've been heard raves about, is Patriot from a couple years ago over on Amazon.
I heard great things about that. I've never checked it out.
That's the next get.
I'm going to
go ahead.
check out Ted Lasso. I've heard great stuff about it. So
how many times have you watched that at this point? 30?
Yeah, it's way too many to count.
It's insane. My favorite show right now is Dickinson on Apple TV Plus. So good. Love the show.
You're just plugging shit you write stuff about. You know what I mean? I doubt you even watch
those are the things that I watch, but also it's an incredible show. You're just fucking talking about what you spend all of your time doing, which is watch shows.
Busted. Pete, what are you watching?
I told you already.
So you said Ted Lasso, which that doesn't count as an answer.
It does. If you keep watching it, still counts.
Yeah, well, we don't say when you spin your Mountain Dew label around, you don't count that as a binge watching or something, right?
Sure do.
That's not how you read, by the way. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's go back over here to Joe. Now that Looney Tunes are canon in the DC universe with Porky's Bar in Gotham City, what other animated characters do you next want to see in Gotham City?
Good question. Well, just a moment on that. It is wild that Porky Pig is legit the bartender. It was in, I think, Batman Catwoman, maybe the issue from a couple weeks back, that you see that he's the bartender there. Like, I think that is so fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was the pig from Rubius.
Who would you want to see? He-Man?
Yeah, Panthro. I'd say Panthro.
Great. Thanks, Pete.
Always leaning on Panthro. What do you want him to do in Gotham City?
Anything. Panthro's the greatest.
Open up a mechanic shop? Because he just fixed the vehicles, right?
How dare you?
Isn't that his whole thing?
He did more than that.
He was the Donatello of the Thundercats.
Oh my God!
I'll mention this. We have a viewer over on YouTube named Walking Tours that is very into the movie Party Monster. It seems says you guys should check out Party Monster. It's really good. And is there a Party Monster Marvel crossover?
I don't think so. I haven't watched Party Monster. Is that the Macaulay Culkin?
I think it was like a Macaulay Culkin movie. Yeah.
One famously where everyone was like, "Oh, Macaulay Culkin." Was like, "Whoa, this dude's different than he was when he was a kid."
Yeah, that's Home Alone 3, right?
Yeah. There's a strong line between he's more the good son. He followed that path as opposed to the Home Alone.
Yeah. Oh, just a follow up here. Taylor Swift was also in Party Monster. There you go.
I'm on board.
Big chatting about Party Monster over there. Thank you for the question, Walking Tours. This is from Ben the Border Collie. Do you have any fun comics or related media dreams you could share? For example, I had a dream last night that Allison Mack of Smallville and Nick's sex cult fame tried to reassure me as I had a panic attack about a lack of social distancing at a Chuck E. Cheese birthday party. I'll tell you what, I would not trust her. I think she had an ulterior motive there.
Wow.
That's a very elaborate, detailed dream.
Such a good question. Have you guys ever had a superhero dream?
When I was a kid, I used to have superhero dreams all the time, and they were not flying dreams. They were kind of like floating a foot or two in the air dreams. It was usually, I can remember this very distinctly from when I was 9, 10, whatever. It would be, I'd be able to swing like Spider-Man past my grandmother's house, but I'd only be able to get like a foot or two above the ground. I'd be like, I'm swinging, but not very high.
Nice. So you had like a very responsible flying dream.
Yeah.
Such a good boy. Such a good boy.
Hey, sorry, I don't know what's going on. We have another question from Walking Tours over here on YouTube. Did you guys watch Party Monster yet?
Yet? I did just watch it. Pretty good.
Just watch it. It's good. Check it out.
Pretty good.
Great stuff. No more questions. I think we're going to put an ixnay on questions about Party Monster. Let's go over to Nick Grayson here.
Here's the thing, Alex. I don't know if you were able to stop yourself. You're not. I've noticed you don't vet a lot of questions.
This is
my version. My version of your flying dream is I would have a dream, a recurring dream where I would jump. I had the power to jump very high, and then I would get to the apex of my leap and realize that I had a real problem on my hands.
Yeah, you're just going to fall to your death there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, man.
But I've never had a dream where I was like hanging out with superheroes, or I've definitely had supernatural dreams where supernatural things are happening, but it definitely isn't in the sort of superhero style.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I can really remember is my nightmares, so I don't really remember my dreams as much.
Tell us about your nightmares.
Well, I have this one reoccurring nightmare that we're all around this lake, and not like we're all like the three of us, but
we're there.
A bunch of people. You might be there,
but I'm there.
Yeah, I'm there for sure.
Okay, and there's a monster in the water, and I'm the only one who sees it. And people are in the trees, like hanging out or whatever. And it's like at an angle where it can jump out of the water. It can't get you like if it's on land, but there's some. So I'm trying to get people to come down off the trees, and then people are getting pulled in the water and dying. And I'm running around trying to save everybody I know and love. And it's pretty awful.
Wait, the monster can only get people out of the trees?
Yeah, because for some
reason
reason.
You're telling them to come out of the trees.
I'm like, please get down, get down.
So the monster can eat you.
No, I'm saying so the monster doesn't eat you. Get down, and they're not
You gotta
listening.
stay on the ground.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh.
I love that. I do think you are often like, I'm the only one that sees the monster in a lot of the things that we do together.
Yeah, and then it's also frustrating because I try to say things and nobody listens or understands me. You know what I mean?
Well, anyway, I don't know what you were saying, but let's move on.
Anyway, I'm going to climb up this tree and just hang out by myself.
This is from Nick Grayson. Would you rather read a great story starring your favorite character and a new character defining Burning the Past style story, or an equally great story that taps into the classic core of the character?
Ooh, good question.
I feel like I kind of hate that this answer is true, but I think classic core of the character is where I go to. Like, there's something about... No, but I think there's something about, like, when I read somebody who really gets what the character is about, I like that more than, like, we're going to burn everything that you fucking know to the ground, you know?
Well, here's what I like, which I guess it's sort of a cheat answer. Like, I want the new take that somehow reflects or calls back the core of the character, which I think is sort of what the best comic book storytelling does. That it's like, look at this new thing, and then hits on an essential part of the core character.
I think you guys are going too far with the question. It ends right at a great story. I don't give a shit as long as it's a great story. You know, the writer, the artist can do whatever the fuck they want. Great story, I'm in.
Coming from a man who famously loves change in his comic book characters.
We got another one over here from YouTube. This is from Walking Tour. Said, I had a dream I was in the Justice League, but they kicked me out for talking about Party Monster too much.
It's a fucking Nat. Stop letting Nat ruin our show.
Interesting that you think it's Nat.
I really don't think that's that. Edward Doherty says, "What?" But for real, Walking Tours, thank you so much for your Party Monsters questions. I think we're done with them at this
point. Let me throw it out here. I think that's Macaulay Culkin.
Viral campaign. Edward Doherty says, why were comics such a social faux pas during the entire 90s comic boom, despite issues of Youngblood and Bad Rock selling many times more than the top comic of, and comics being accepted in 2020?
Interesting. Well, I think, there's probably actual facts that back this up, but I do think that was the actual
on this
comic.
Show?
Not from us. We're journalists, but we don't have sources or check facts. I think that the collector's market is what came in, and it was like speculators. So it wasn't people that really loved comics or the fans of comics. So it was only the actual fans of comics didn't change, and so the trajectory of being accepted only happened recently. Let me guess, Alex. Yeah. Something about Party Monster. Here's the thing, Alex. You're the Party Monster.
Yeah.
You've become the Party Monster.
I'm just fascinated by this.
Are you drunk? Like, what the fuck is going on with you, man?
This person Walking Tours says,
why are you?
Wait, what happened to you? What happened to you? You know what? We have no check. We have no one else in the YouTube because Alex is broken. Alex is broken right now. And we can't say
wrote, it is me, Nate, and then corrected it to Nat and said, I am your friend, Nat.
Oh, I mean, that's funny.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if it's that funny, but all right.
Wait, what were we talking about? The 90s comic book boom?
Wow. You've been shattered. I feel honestly really the beard is showing that Alex is in crisis. The beard is. Yeah. This is when Peter Parker's on another planet and he needs to get back to Earth. Alex is in that place, and that planet is the Party Monster.
Oh my God. It's killing me. It is. I mean, I will mention this is something actually my wife and I were weirdly wanting to try to right the ship.
Good luck getting back on the tracks, Crazy Train. Hello, I'm the Crazy Train. I'd like to get back on the track.
Right now, I'm ignoring another comment about Party Monster over there and just going on with this.
You're not actually.
You're not. You just brought it up.
You're not.
You dumbass.
We're gonna look back on this show and be like, we never got him back.
This is where Alex broke.
We never got him back from that moment.
We couldn't put him back together. It's like Humpty Dumpty.
Whew. Good times.
You were saying something about you and your wife?
Yeah. Look, Alex is sweating.
I'm completely drenched in sweat.
He's sweating about it.
I don't know. What was I saying? Oh yeah,
You and your wife were talking.
I do think it's interesting. We were talking actually about like comic conventions when we were younger. She never really went to them. I did, but I was thinking specifically about like even at that point, even in the 90s, the hierarchy of nerds that were there in a weird way. And I remember going in and being like, well, I'm a comic book nerd, and over there's Star Trek nerds, and then there would be like one guy walking around dressed as Tom Baker from Doctor Who, and I'd be like, "Who the fuck is that? Get out of here, you nerd!"
Oh, come on!
No, but like that's I think what that hierarchy was like when you went to a comic book convention at that point. Whether it was right or not, it wasn't. You know, it's wrong. But I think it's interesting how that has changed, and things have been more accepted, and there is more acceptance of like. Even if you're in the smallest fan base, that's still cool now. And I think that's a much better way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because the internet sort of changed that because we all had our weird interests and however we arrived at them is how we got there. But now the internet changed all that where we could know about Doctor Who and know about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Wait.
But then you're much more accepting.
You were going to comic book conventions as a kid, judging people at the conventions and ranking them?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I tried to think of another way of describing it, but that's exactly what I was doing.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
But
can't there be a safe place where we can all just congregate and enjoy?
No, but I remember looking around because like I was interested in nerddom even then and like the different sections of it. So it was interesting seeing like where people were gravitating towards and going to these comic book conventions. People were going to the comic book tables. They were talking to the different comic book shop owners, and there was like lots of traffic around there. And then you'd have the people at the Star Trek table being like, "Hey, check us out. What's going on? You like Star Trek?" And then there'd be that one random guy walking around with the Tom Baker thing.
Well, and especially back then, because it felt like it's like this isn't your home, Star Trek. Person, this is a comic convention. Go to a Trekkie convention.
Well, but there wasn't really that thing.
Yeah,
like there wasn't the same
bad.
separation that way. I mean, as Kevin's pointing out, as a Doctor Who fan, I was often completely left off the list. And this is actually, that's how the conversation started because we have a calendar that has all of the different doctors from Doctor Who on it. And both my wife and I were like, I recognize Tom Baker. Some of these doctors I've never seen anything of. And it's weird that 2005, when there was the reinvention from Russell T Davies, that it just suddenly blew up and became this worldwide thing that was accepted in a way that it wasn't in the same way. It was very nerdy. So I don't know. There wasn't really a conclusion there so much as I think it is, to the point of this question, very interesting how, despite the divisions, geekdom, nerddom, whatever you want to call it, has become far more accepting of different types of fandom, which I think is cool.
Was it weird when your wife is like, "You're a monster and I hate you"?
Well, I haven't seen her since that discussion.
Okay.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Question from I Wonder Woman. I wonder, would you prefer to live in a world where Jack Kirby as Peak Kirby had a defining hand in 1953 DC instead of Otto Binder, or Otto Binder as Peak Binder had a defining hand in 1961 Marvel Comics?
Whoa.
What?
Great question. I don't know what that means. I'll just be honest about it. I wanted to fake an answer, but I'm not 100% sure.
I would want Kirby over in DC. DC just could be weirder, I think. Weirder with an organized weirdness, which I think is what Kirby did so well. Like big swings into stuff, and I think I would like to see more of that in DC.
Yeah. I completely agree, and I have nothing to add because you completely took my answer. This is from Josh. What is a podcast that you love to be a guest on?
Ooh, nice.
Comic Book Club.
Yeah. God, it'd be great to have the pressure of hosting, all the research.
I mean, honestly, particularly right now, I don't listen to a lot of other podcasts just for time reasons, and I think people have talked about this. There are not as many people listening to podcasts just because there's not as much travel going on right now necessarily. But I don't know. I listen to Doughboys a lot. That would be fun. Guy. I like weird food. I'd be happy to go on that.
I'd love to do Doughboys as well. I listen to a lot of podcasts actually.
All right.
I don't know. Wow, is that the lamest flex?
Yeah, that's a flex.
I actually listen to a lot of podcasts.
Been on High and Mighty a lot. My buddy Gabrus's podcast. That's a fun.
Have you been on it?
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Oh, okay.
That's the show you came to see me at in Philadelphia.
We got a couple of shout outs here in the comments to Must Have Seen TV, which is our friend Brett White's podcast, all about very old TV. I've done that before. It's fun. He has you watch a very old sitcom and then chat about that very old sitcom. So that's very much in Brett's wheelhouse, and it's enjoyable.
Well, a podcast I've been listening to a lot actually lately is Smartless. Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes' podcast. They have very big celebrities on that, but that would be a fun one to do.
Yep. Question from Joe. Is it believable for Godzilla to stand on top of an aircraft carrier alongside King Kong? And I think the answer is yes, if they're in love.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, I would say no. I would say no, that doesn't seem possible.
Their love will keep them afloat. Well, the question is, can they touch at the bottom of the, can they touch the ocean floor? And also, can they touch each other erotically?
I'm very nervous about that movie, by the way, because they're both my hero, and I don't want them to fight each other.
They're your hero?
Yeah, man.
Just ethically.
Yeah, what do you aspire? I mean, heroes often are something we aspire to be. What about, let's take Godzilla first. What about do you aspire to be?
Well, first off, Godzilla, rests. He's left alone, and then when big things happen, they have to like wake him up, and he comes and saves the day, and then he goes back to his private life, and I respect that. I look up to that. I think that's a good life goal.
You like his privacy on Monster Island?
Yeah. I like the fact that people leave him alone, but then if something big happens, they have to come and get him and be like, hey, we need you for Mothra, and he's like, fine, okay, I'll set down this amazing book I was reading, and I'll help you guys out. I
do look forward to someday having to hike to whatever cabin you've sequestered yourself in as a future recluse to be like, Pete, the comic book club fans want to know your take. Just a little audio recorder in my hand.
You have to come and get me.
I will. I'll be the one to rescue you from yourself in your Wolverine cabin.
Get ready. The cabin's going to be weird, man.
Got a question here from First Hand Up Guy. Which MCU movies do you think people should watch before watching WandaVision?
Great question. Nat asked this question in our Slack, and I think we did not answer it.
That's probably why I asked it again here.
Yes, right. That's good. He wants an answer. This man wants an answer.
So our next question is... No, I mean, honestly, it's hard to say because we've only seen the first 3 episodes at this point, and it certainly seems like it's bringing in a lot of MCU continuity, but as is... honestly, the funny part about it is, like, I don't think the relationship really follows at all from any of the Avengers movies. Like, maybe you want to watch Infinity War or Endgame just to get a sense of
I think you
where
need to
they
watch
ended up.
I think you need to watch the Spine movies. I think
I think you have to go back and you have to watch Brady Bunch. Okay, you got to watch Charles in Charge. Like to really get all the references. That's what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need to watch all of the Charles in Charge episodes.
I mean, first of all, if they've done their job right, you don't have to watch any of them because hopefully they should give you the information that you need to know in the scenes, and it's only richer if you've seen the other stuff. But as is, like, Age of Ultron certainly weirdly seems important to this because you're going back to Wanda's origins. Also, Infinity and Endgame, as Stray Bullet mentioned. Also, you might want to watch Civil War as well, Captain America Civil War, just because, like, that developed their relationship a lot further.
But how do you just watch Civil War? You would have to watch everything.
Well, okay, let me throw this out there. You start with Iron Man, then you move to Incredible Hulk, then you go over to Thor, then Captain America, then Avengers, then you do Iron Man 2. After you do Iron Man 2, I forget which one came out next.
Wow, how dare you? Probably a Thor.
Yeah, made it like 6 movies in.
Thor the Winter Soldier. I don't know.
Cool.
Whatever the fuck.
And you have
those
to watch...
fucking movies are like way below Tom Baker, Doctor Who, and the convention thing, honestly.
Wow. And be sure to definitely watch the Alex's short erotic thriller that he made featuring Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. That's pretty cool too.
There's a lot of...
Again, honestly, like I really don't think you need to watch anything, but if you want to watch them, watch the Avengers movies.
I would think though, like to your point, I think they do. You don't need to have watched Ultron to get the emotional stakes of what happens in the third episode, but I think if you want to know what the words mean that they're saying, you do need to watch that movie.
Lots of questions about hierarchies in here. So I'll see what we can get to. But before we get to that, actually, Josh asks, what is the topic, person, event, or whatever that you'd like to see get the comic book history treatment? For those of you who don't know, Fred and Ryan have already done action philosophers, action presidents. Now they've done comic book history of animation. They did the comic book history of comics. I'm sure there's one more that I'm forgetting. But what else would you want to see?
That's a good comic book history of capitalism. I feel like they talk about how money moves a lot in their series, because it does sort of drive so much of history. So that would be a fun sort of take, or comic book history of economics, explaining some.
Yeah. What about like the comic book history of soda, right, Pete? The Soda Wars.
I think, I mean, I would love to be able, if I was a kid, throw out my social studies book and they could redo that whole thing. But I would love to see like something that's very niche, a little bit like 90s cartoons or something like that, like the Saturday morning cartoon, kind of.
I mean, they said they're doing that as an issue of comic book history of animation. So granted.
But I do, to your point, Pete, I do think like if they did a comic book history of like pop culture and hit each decade, from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s,
today.
And today, I knew you were going to say that. Yes.
All right. Let's go over here. I do not understand what this one is, but this is from Hollywood Homer. Fly Cheeto, bitten by a radioactive fly, or B, hero or villain, sold to DC or Marvel.
Do
you understand that? Is that a
I don't, but that does feel like a Marvel character.
Okay. What do you think, Pete? DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Okay. I'm going to say DC. Hero or villain?
Villain. Cheetos are up to no good.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Great question. Let's go over here. Jay Citizen wants to know, what's the hierarchy of comedy? There's been a fair discussion about that over in the comments over here.
What genres are we talking about here?
Yeah, like what?
I mean, probably improv, sketch. What else?
Stand up.
Yeah, stand-up's, for better or for worse, probably number one, right?
Oh, interesting. The comments are, it seems like there's a fight happening here. Interesting. The fight seems to be between Nat and I guess Pete's girlfriend. I wonder if there's a punch coming. And clowns. So it's stand-up, sketch, improv, and clowns. Now, Alex, famously married to a clown.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's different. I mean, there's vaudeville. There's a lot of different like styles that we could break down. But I mean, as far as like a hierarchy, I feel like you need the big ones to kind of talk about, But I'm just wondering, like, how do you rank it? Like, what's funniest? Like, what's more influential? Like, what I mean, there's writings, there's novels. I mean, what are we?
I love the novels about improv are my favorite. There's a great.
I think this is in terms of respect. We're talking about respect, right?
Oh, we're talking about respect. Well, honestly, it's changed a lot. I would think, especially in our time here in New York as comedians.
Not respected.
Improv used to be top of the heap, and I think improv has steadily descended in our time here in this brave city. I also think sketch has descended a bit. Sketch, I feel like, used to be a bit more on a pedestal. When I first started doing comedy, it was all about
the 50s.
Getting in the 1950s, getting your sketch group together and then becoming big, touring, doing Aspen Comedy Festival, which since went away. And then I think, at least in New York, the comedy theaters here developed a house sketch team system, and that sort of did away with
it kind of cut into it. I think also a lot of it is like anybody who was going to do anything innovative there immediately migrated to YouTube, then from YouTube went to Twitter and Facebook, and from there is now on like TikTok and Snapchat and whatever else. So they don't you don't need to be performing live in New York at this point if you've got a TikTok account. It's just not.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And in just individual performance sort of took over. That's why I think the rise of stand-up and standalone character pieces have sort of replaced Alex's. He's got the party monster set.
Yeah, we got a quick question. This is a different user from Crazy Shoe 666 over here says, "Hi, can you guys suggest a good movie about the New York Underground since you live there? Maybe a film with a former child star who sets traps in his home alone." Great question. I would say Panic Room. Panic Room is the answer to that. Thank you for asking. We got one last question here. This is from a follow-up from the Wananana. Does Alex's wife judge the other clowns and assign the position in the clown convention hierarchy? Thanks, Jay Sinison. Great question. There is a hierarchy of clowns.
I bet.
She was a Ringling Brothers clown, so she toured for years. There's Ringling Brothers clowns. There's Cirque du Soleil clowns, which are an entirely different thing. There's party clowns, party monsters, if you will. And they're certainly at the bottom there.
And then there's creepy clowns.
Yeah, and then there's like Pennywises. There you go.
Known in the business as a Pennywise.
Pennywise is kind of the top
clown.
of the food chain. Yeah, the murder clown.
The murder clown, known colloquially as a Pennywise.
Yes. And
Interesting.
Guys, I think that's a great chance to move on to our next section, which is trivia.
Oh, boy.
And for that,
What is happening?
I don't know. We're going to turn it over to Pete LePage for some trivia. If you want to do that, just raise your hand, say, I want to play, either on YouTube or on Crowdcast, and we will welcome you into the stream, and you will win $25. So all you got to say is me. Oh, we got a
hand up.
We got a hand up right here.
We got a hand up.
Podcast.
Okay, here we go.
Moreland.
All right.
I mean, if this is probably isn't going to happen, but I just hope that Adriel Moreland is in full clown makeup.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
That would be great. Very exciting.
All right. Well, this is an opportunity to win $25 free dollars.
Hello. How are you, Adriel?
Clown Comics.
Welcome.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping into the stream. Pete's about to do his classic explanation of what trivia is.
Okay, so I'm going to read you a question, listen to all three possible answers, get all three questions right, $25 will be yours, okay? All right, so today's trivia is on topical comic news and a small nod to the legend James Lipton. Here we go.
And Pete, I just interrupt here. The main way I get my news is from He-Man, but the second way I get my news is from your trivia.
Okay, great.
Topical.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but he died last year, so.
He-Man?
No, James Lipton.
Oh my God! Who
He-Man
killed him?
died.
Was it Skeletor?
Died tragically.
Yeah,
No.
awful.
He drank 2 bottles of Mountain Dew back to back, and it killed him.
I'll get you every time. All right, question number 1. What new team will be determined by fan vote? What new team member? Is it A, X-Men, B, Justin's Beer Pong League, or is it C, John Travolta? So it's either A, which is the only one that fits the question, or you can be completely wrong and pick B or C.
Sounds like A.
That's right. X-Men is deciding to fan vote, decide who's on the team.
I hate to tell you, Pete, but I'm doing the same thing with my beer pong league.
Oh, wow. Really? Fan vote?
Yeah,
you guys
fan
aren't
vote.
going to do well. You're not going to
Fan
do well. You should pick on talent. Okay, here we go. Question number 2. What is the name of the new creator-owned series about a time bandit by Garth Ennis? Is it called A, Marjorie Finnegan, B, Madam Time Bandit, or is it C, Chloe Grace Moritz? So it's either A, or you could pick B, or you could pick C.
Let's go with A again.
A is
right.
correct. I'm very excited about Garth Ennis' new book. Should be interesting. Here we go. Last one. Don't get cocky. Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness back which 90s hit story? Is it A, the Onslaught Saga, B, Heroes Reborn, or is it C, shall I wait for Kevin to see if he's going to guess, Miley Cyrus? So
Wow, he did it. Kevin guessed it at the same time he said it.
Wow. I gave him a pause. So it's either Heroes Reborn or you're completely wrong. What would you want to pick?
I did see it was Heroes Reborn. So
Yes.
Yes.
$25 to Midtown
Congratulations. Shoot us an email at comicbookclublive@gmail.com. We'll get you that $25 gift card. Adriel, thanks for hopping on.
Before we let you go, Adriel, you got a lot of shout outs in the comments for both your t-shirt and the art on your walls. So
yes.
Giving it up for a killer.
Listening online. Very cool. Very cool Luke Cage t-shirt. Thank you for hopping on. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Take care of yourself.
All right. There we go. Before we wrap up here. Oh, you want to guess, is this a tribute to James Lipton?
Yeah, the movie Bolt.
Bolt?
Yep.
It's crazy to hear someone ask seriously, oh, is this a tribute to James Lipton?
Man.
Sorry to interrupt, but is this just another tribute to James Lipton?
The only movie I've ever seen is Party Monster. So
that's our homework for next week.
Are you walking tour? Were you cracking yourself up the whole time?
Maybe I'm just having a nice time. You know who else is having a nice time? You, as you're reading new comic books. DC stuff is out today. Everything else is out for the rest of the week. What are you looking forward to, Pete?
Ooh. I am
me? What a delight.
Usagi Yojimbo Wanderers Road #3 of 6 I'm looking forward to.
Nice. Justin?
Just more Usagi going around.
It's good stuff.
Yes, there are a lot of good things coming out tomorrow. One I'd like to shout out is the upcoming issue of Daredevil, which I have been really loving Chip Zdarsky's take, and this is a crossover with the Venom story, the Venom crossover, King in Black. So I'm very excited to see how it is handled while the rest of the story moves forward. And let me throw it out to Strange Adventures 8 over on the DC side of things. Just a great book.
I'm looking forward to the Other History of the DC Universe. #2 is coming out. The first issue plumbed very deep into the history of Black Lightning. This one does some Teen Titans characters. And John Ridley is just writing the crap out of this book. I'm excited to chat with you guys about it on the Stack podcast that comes out in the Comic Book Club feed and also its own Stack feed every Wednesday at 9 a.m. So definitely check that out. And folks, that is it for our show. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah. Thank you to our amazing guests, Fred Van Lente and Ryan Dunlavey. Remember to check out the Comic Book History of Animation first 2 issues from IDW on the stands now. Next week, we're going to have 2 guests are going to be here. Sal Abernathy is going to be here to talk about Comixology's The Hostage, a new book there. And because you demanded it, Giancarlo Boothman Prime is going to be here with us all show long, hanging out. So that should be super fun.
He's going to be on for the whole show?
The whole show. Pete and I talked over the email. Surprise, Justin.
Wow. You know, I never hear about the news of this show.
You got to watch He-Man. That's where I found out about it. A couple of other podcasts to plug. Riverdale After Dark, our Riverdale podcast, is back every Wednesday. Umbrella Podcademy, our Umbrella Academy podcast, is up on Thursdays. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast currently covering WandaVision, is Fridays. American Godcast, our American Gods podcast, is on Sundays. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support the show. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen at Comic Book Live on Twitter. ComicBookClubLive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, watch Party Monster, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.